Szklarska Poreba hosting the last round of the cross-country World Cups as we prepare for the big occasion, the Olympic Games, running right the way throughout February. Misty conditions here. It's the first World Cup ever to be hosted on these tracks. They've gone to great lengths to get the tracks into good enough condition, and of course very difficult. It's much harder to prepare a classic track than it is to prepare a freestyle, so they've had their work cut out, and the reason they've gone to the effort is because they're absolutely convinced that Justyna Kowalczyk is going to win. Well, let's have a look at the programme for the weekend. Cross-country alpine skiing from Wengen. Let's hope that gets underway. Nick and John on hand for that. We've got Cortina d'Ampezzo. That's been cancelled as it was yesterday, so a slight change in the programme there. And then we're back in Poland for the women's cross-country at 11:45 UK time. Well, later on in the day, the second leg of the men's slalom from Wengen. Zakopane, big jump there, 134 metres to back up the women's competition that's already taken place. And then some snowboarding from Stoneham, and a chance to see who might be the favourites for the Olympic glory in the snowboard disciplines. And now we just prepare for the men's mass start. And so it's going to be an exciting race. We'll be back as soon as this break is over with the start of the men's 15-kilometre classic style. So the athletes making their way to the start line, and I guess we have to look at Alex Harvey and Polteranen in Kazakhstan. They're two of the big names here. The Germans certainly will be hoping for great things. It does look a little bit like the Russian and German championships here, Mike, with so many of the Scandinavian countries staying away.
Well, that's right. Nearly all of the top 17 ranked in the field are from Germany or from Russia, but certainly some big names in that sharp end. Polteranen, Dotzler, Volzentsev.
Well, here's the profile of the course, and as you can see, a fairly stiff climb out of the stadium, but then at 1,250 metres, that's where the biggest climb starts on this lap. 5 times round 2.7. They're going to get a little bit dizzy on this track, Mike, but what's so good is that the crowd are going to see them every 6 or 7 minutes. They're going to be coming through the stadium, and I think that will affect the way they race.
It absolutely, it was planned to be a 3.75 track, but the serious lack of snow, and they've gone to great efforts to bring all the snow off the mountains, and then a little bit of natural snow fell on top.
Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have picked out that most of the skis have clister on. Most of them have silver clister on. And silver clister, Mike, really a way of trying to prevent the dirt building up on the base of the ski.
And in these, just minus half a degree temperatures, you can see the dampness around. The tracks are going to become glazed, and silver clister, always a good option in these warm glazed temperatures.
Just wondering whether some of them have gone without, gone for the hairy ski without wax. It's a possibility in these conditions. Mass start with the favourites on the front rank. Polteranen, Harvey, Dotzler, Volzentsev is there for Russia, wearing number 4. Number 1 is Polteranen, and I think a really good classic skier, worth watching today. 5 is Thomas Bing on the near side. On the far side, Volzentsev. Good start from him. And right behind them, we saw Toby Anger on the second row with Tim Schanke, 2 of the top Germans. Yevgeny Belov is there. He was a brilliant junior, brilliant at under 23 level. Hasn't quite fulfilled expectations yet, but he is actually only 23. So I think he's a name for the future. But maybe this Olympic cycle has come around a little bit too early for Belov.
Quite possibly. You often see the fact that the Russian athletes in the past, we've seen many medals at the Junior World Championships, but taking another 4 or 5 years until they reach real maturity to compete with and win regularly in the men's World Cup racing.
Now, I was trying to remember when the first mass start race was, Mike. I have a feeling it was in Canmore. I know that it was won by Jochen Behler, the only World Cup that he ever won, but I remember the outrage that anyone could suggest that they had a mass start race for a cross-country. And nowadays, not only is it more common than the time trial, it's more popular as well.
It really is, and I remember Bjorn Daly was not happy back in 2000 in Ramsau World Championships. Sorry, 2019, late 90s.
99.
Yes.
99.
And when he had to lead out in the pursuit competition in difficult conditions, and he said, listen, this isn't the way forward for cross-country skiing, but I think you'll agree now, mass starts and pursuit competitions are great.
And sure, the fitness plays, you know, your fitness levels play the same role, but you then add in the tactics, because as we can see, they've set off at a pedestrian pace. There will be one or two frustrated. We may see someone make a break and try and get up on the inside, because there's no option on the outside today. There's not enough snow around. And this, when the tracks are narrow like this is the only time that you think, hang on, you need a football pitch or a lake to start the race. So there's plenty of space for some jostling of position.
Normally, though, Patrick, I think we would have 4 cut tracks, sets of cut tracks up this climb, but the restriction of snow just isn't allowing it. And then it normally pans into 3 tracks after about 5 minutes.
Yeah, slightly surprised to see Hannes Dotzler dropping back so many places. He's wearing bib number 3, and Dotzler getting his Olympic qualification in Lenzerheide because he finished second in the 15-kilometre classic style there. Number 55 getting a little bit impatient. That's Harold Wurm of Austria, and he's doing a good job. Number 21 coming up on the inside is Bernhard Tritcher, and he's a speed merchant if ever there was one. And we saw him produce a blistering ski on the very first half of the prologue in the Tour de Ski.
We did indeed. They were good moves there from the 2 Austrian boys. There's no way through except up the middle, and he made it happen, made it work.
And one faller reduces the size of the track by half. Was it number 27 who went down? I think it could have been Pepeni. I think it was one of the other Romanians, actually, who hit the deck. It might have been Hogyu. Well, this first lap was always going to be tight, and the best position to be in the front 3. So suddenly a little bit of technical skiing, and the field is spread out significantly. 150 metres now between the front and the back. Let's have a look, see if we can pick out the faller. 51.
Didn't see it.
Hogyu of Romania.
That's a pity. That's a pity. But, well, he got up quite quickly, straight back into the action. And I think that's why it was quite pedestrian, leading down into... That's a very technical, difficult part. You imagine, Patrick, 5 times down that hill today, 5 rotations. Oh, another one, 22.
That's Eric Bjornsson of USA. And the Americans... they've looked pretty sharp of late. I know Andrew Newell's in this race, but he's really a specialist sprinter. He's done very well on the sprint circuit. We'll see how he gets on. Finished 6th, actually, yesterday in the Sprint World Cup. Bjornsson is there, who's coming up, Mike. The other American we need to watch out for is Noah Hoffman, number 14.
As soon as you said it,
there he is, straight at the front.
Cheekily worked his way in between the 2 left-hand columns there. That was a good move. He's restless in the pack there.
Yeah, he's a lucky man. He lives in a place that I'm sure all of you know, Aspen in Colorado. Now, the key with Aspen, Mike, is that it's, what, 9,000 feet? Maybe a little above that. The slopes go up to 14,000. This man's not short of red blood cells.
And, you know, when he came in, and often when you're coming back off high altitude or you live there initially, it really does help to get you up into the red blood cells produced in your system. And, of course, he did so well at the first World Cup in Kusamo, Noah Hoffman. Had the fastest time in the 15 pursuit.
Number 9 is Toby Angra. I'm sure a few of you recognise him as we see a replay of Bjornsson's slip. Just careless, but he's affected 1 or 2 others. Rogozin of Kazakhstan running into an obstacle there. At this stage of the race, it doesn't really matter because the pace is not fierce enough to stop you catching up with the pack.
As Hoffman came out there, he brought a skier down.
I think we've seen more fallers already than we've seen in the rest of the season. Noah Hoffman still out front, looking for a little bit of support, maybe looking for Eirik Bjornsson, but he's not to know that Bjornsson has taken a tumble. Number 20 is Tony Livers. Now the Swiss, Mike, will be watching out for Livers. They'll be watching out for Gianluca Cologna. No Dario Colonia in today's race, but I have heard from some Swiss friends that Colonia will be on the plane to Sochi. I guess he's just got automatic qualification from his performances last year.
And I think that is fair enough, but we know that from day one, practically, when he badly injured his ankle ligaments, they had him straight in the gym and working, keeping his heart and lungs, the cardiovascular system working. And sometimes a long break like that, you can come back strong, but I thought we'd see him here this weekend because he needs race experience.
Yeah, the question is how much can he do cardiovascular, how much cardiovascular training can he do, and how effective is it when effectively you have 2 arms, 1 leg, as opposed to 2 arms, 2 legs. And the key there, Mike, and one of the reasons that cross-country skiing is always at the top, when they list the toughest sports, cross-country skiing always comes out top, because your heart is having to supply, your heart and lungs are having to supply so many muscle groups. But if you've got 1 leg that's out of action, you're obviously limited.
It's incredibly difficult, isn't it? I know he was in the swimming pool, so there's no impact through his ankle, so you can still use that leg, but yes, you're going to lose muscle. It's not weight bearing, so therefore it's a different kind of muscle usage. But with the best experts he could find, the best information he could find, I still think we're going to see Dario Colonia back at the top end.
Well, wouldn't it be sensational if he managed to defend his 15-kilometre title? But don't forget that the 15K this year is classic, as opposed to Vancouver, where it was freestyle. Andrew Newell losing a few places. Kershaw going through in 20th place for Canada. Kershaw, who a couple of seasons ago was absolutely red hot on the tour, not having such a good year this year. Down in 58th position in the World Cup rankings. Fall of the day. Szklarska Poreba hosting 2 races over the weekend. This is the men's 15-kilometre mass start, as I'm sure you've worked out, and even this far into the race, they have not managed to split the pack effectively. Polteranen coming to the front for the first time. Alex Harvey in the middle of your picture wearing 2. Number 5 is Thomas Bing, the 23-year-old German who's only ranked 53 in the World Cup, but he did pretty well in Lenzerheide, where he got a really good run in the 15-kilometre classic. Never seen him at a major, so if he qualifies, in fact I think that run in Lenzerheide did qualify him for Sochi, Mike, and Thomas Bing hasn't got any experience of a major competition, World Championships or Olympics. How important is that when it comes to your prospects?
I don't think it. Bing, we saw his good form in Switzerland and Lenzerheide at the 4th position. He's confident. He's got momentum. Well, here he is at the front, dealing with pressure. Often when you go in there for a first major, there's less pressure than someone who's, say, expected to win the gold medal. So I think Thomas Bing on the plane to Sochi, it can really produce the results there for Germany. And Frank Ulrich has done such a good job bringing this team up when it matters most, just in the last 4 weeks.
Well, you can see the problems they've got here. There's next to no natural snow. They've been storing it for some months and laid it all out on the tracks. Normally, we would have 45 centimetres of artificial snow on a track. We certainly don't have that depth. And the issue it raises, Mike, is that the pebbles and the dirt that come through the track. That's really why we're seeing so many people fall.
It is, and some of the athletes having to go quite wide around his left-hander and then back into the tracks. But dirt, pine needles. I think they've done a great job, because there really wasn't much snow around here prior to the World Cup arriving.
Now, if you gave them the option to change their skis, I think they'd probably do that at the halfway stage, or certainly after 3 laps.
Yeah, a number of the athletes slipping, so their wax becoming less effective already, or maybe even the wrong choice of wax.
Well, that's a good point, Mike, simply because racing 5 times around a 2.7, the tracks are going to get more and more glazed as we go on. If they'd gone really sticky initially, they wouldn't have got round the first loop. So it's a really difficult one to play, and that's why I was questioning whether you think someone might have gone with wax-free skis.
I think we absolutely, in these temperatures, it's a safe bet. Yes, the glide may be a little slower, but without a doubt, they have a better grip in these horrible conditions.
So through 4.2 and 11:22 on the clock at the moment. Polteranen Well, what's going on there? That's an unusual situation to see Polteranen just reduced to a walk. Number 32 is Max Hauk. He's also having a little problem with the wax and having to change his technique accordingly, trying to put much more pressure down through the ski. And I just wonder whether the athletes are starting to get a little disheartened by the conditions here, Mike. Nothing that they can do, because it's all about the snow that's fallen and the snow that they've made. But it is a World Cup race, and you have to bear that in mind.
And Max leading this. Max Hauk, he's only 21-year-old. He's inexperienced, but he's really trying to snap this field early on.
Well, I think the pace is still pretty steady at the front. If you were in this group, you'd certainly want to be in the first 3 or 4, simply because it makes the corners, the downhill sections, much easier to negotiate, especially the fast sections like this with a couple of S-bends down the bottom. And there's not a lot of room to play with. If you miss one step, or the outer ski slips once, you're going to find yourself right on the outside of the track and in danger of going off the prepared piste.
I love this course. This little sequence of S-bends, that's as fast, as difficult, I think, as we've seen all season in our World Cup races.
Yeah, in icy conditions, it would be very fast, very difficult to negotiate. Polteranen back out the front again after that little walk at the top of the hill. I think Polteranen just didn't want to take the lead. That was probably what the issue was. Still no moves as they go through the stadium for the second time. Another 3 laps to go here, and no real moves, and only 1 or 2 athletes losing the pace at the front. There are quite a few local Poles who are racing, as is the norm for the host nation, and they're just finding the pace a little bit stiff. But on the whole, we've got, what, 85% of the field all in that front group, and then just a file of tail-enders. And if the pace stays as it is at the front, a little bit more effort and they could find themselves back in the mix again. Polteranen still leading the way, 2/3 of the distance completed. Welcome back to Szklarska Poreba in Poland, and Alex Harvey is having a taste of the lead now. Still no effort to break away, everyone else feeding off the pace that he's setting. Mike and I discussing during the break whether this is the ideal location for Olympic preparation, or whether the teams have come here because they know there are some easy pickings as far as World Cup points are concerned.
It's a strange one, isn't it? The travelling aspect, that you'd want your team to be settled and doing the final preparation. Of course, this is great preparation in that it's a World Cup 15-kilometre classic, but it's travelling now before Sochi, and it just really the big names in the American team, the German team, the Russian team, and the Canadian team here. A lot of the others, Norway, Sweden, Finland, not coming to this one.
Well, I think there are a few positives, Mike, and we'll try and pick out the good points. Firstly, I would say mass start racing. Always good to get experience before the games, because of course there's so much of that's going to go on. The skiathlon, the 50k are going to be mass starts out in Sochi, so racing head-to-head is good. Those who are in the second tier, who are used to being left behind by the group, are suddenly going to find themselves vying for top positions. That's got to be a boost for them. And thirdly, we've got as good a crowd here, as enthusiastic spectators as we've had all season, and that's got to be a good factor.
Oh, it's wonderful. The conditions, you can see the mud coming through, but hey, we've had that in Oberhof. There's been difficult conditions almost at every race this season,
And I suspect we're going to get tricky conditions in Sochi, although they do have hundreds of thousands of tons of snow ready to lay out on the tracks. They've promised, the top meteorologist in the south of Russia has promised us a snowstorm next week. It may happen, it may not. But either way, they're going to have at least 50 centimetres of snow on every single track.
Oh, it will be safe, but it will be warm. We're expecting, I suppose, at the Olympics, normally warm, normally foggy like this. So, hey, maybe it's just a good warm-up for the exact conditions. Only 800 metres high here, which is okay. It's not real altitude. It doesn't affect you that much racing at this height.
The only thing I wouldn't do is use my best pair of skis. And I should think they've tucked their 3 or 4 best pairs safely away, just in case they get damaged today.
I think talking about teams here and not here, of course, the British team up at the Norwegian Championships, and that's why the Norwegians aren't here. They've all had to take part in the 3-day races up in Norway.
And the Norwegian Championships are effectively the Norwegian selection races, or the final selection. I'm sure they've got 1 or 2 nailed on candidates already, but the final placings, the relay placings will be made. They've got a little issue though, Mike.
It's amazing, isn't it? Andrew Musgrave winning the sprint race at the Norwegian National Championships and selection race for the Olympic Games, and Andrew Young 16th. 2 fantastic positions.
And some people say that the Norwegian Championships are harder to win than a World Championships because there are so many good club skiers there.
That's always been recognised, hasn't it? And maybe a little pressure on the national team members. They have to show good, but for Muzzy to take that victory, that is so special.
Yeah, and when you think Krog was in the field, they had
Hadderstad, second place.
Yeah, Northug was in the race. Past champions, present champions, but Andrew Musgrave coming out on top. Without a doubt, the best ever British cross-country result. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Streaks ahead of anything else that anyone's achieved. But of course, it's got us all excited because we're starting to think that now he could make the final in the Olympic Games.
And he believes that now. When you can beat the Norwegians at home at the championships, you can do anything. And of course, he had a 7th place in the 15-kilometre classic, and a 6th place as well in the big distance race. So top end, top bracket, and anything can happen in Sochi.
Yeah, I think my only concern, Mike, is that he's going to try and complete the whole Olympic programme as opposed to saying these are the 2 events that I can win and therefore I'll focus on them.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, he has raced quite hard at major championships in the past. I'm sure that there's a lot of advice and common sense there to just pick and choose your best races.
What would you advise?
With a real chance.
6 mediocre results or 2 brilliant ones?
I would say 2/3 amazing ones. Save yourself for the big and the best, and where you have the real chance of winning.
Well, we'll look forward to that next month, but now to focus on this race. The close-up shot you had of the snow, or it was of one of the athletes' boots and bindings, but you did see the snow. There are certainly little pebbles out there, as well as the pine cones, and that will be a major concern, and I'm still fairly convinced that that's why we saw so many fallers early on. Number 21, that's Bernard Tritcher, who's still going. He must be reaching his maximum distance. Originally, we were going to have 6 loops on this 2.7 track to make up just over 15 Ks. They've cut it down to 5 because of the conditions, and I believe that the women's race has been cut from 4 to 3 this afternoon. That won't make any difference. Kowalczyk is still the hot favourite to take the win there. And how would she love to get a home World Cup win under her belt?
It's not going to be... Well, Kowalczyk is almost untouchable in the 10-kilometre classic, but there are big names there who will be hunting her down, trying to stay with her. Or will Kowalczyk feel the pressure at home?
So 8.1 kilometres completed, and they have another 2 laps to go. Bing of Germany in front, but the lead is insignificant at this stage with Villigzaning, Biloff. We've got Tritcher still there, Yaparov, Pellegrini making up for mistakes in the sprint event yesterday where he was favourite to win but knocked out in the quarter-finals. Harvey, Kershaw still only 4 seconds behind, and then a little bit of a gap back to the next to the Frenchman. I think that might have been Golabre, who we've not seen a lot of this year, wearing bib number 26. Villigzaning for Russia, number 7, lucky 7, 24-year-old, a brilliant talent. 24, he's 31, 31-year-old Villigjanin. But he was 5th in the World Cup standings last year, Mike. Down in 15th at the moment. Is that an indication that he's dropping off, or that he's just prioritising?
I think he's been prioritising, and of course in Sochi last year, the pre-Olympics as it's called, remember he had that 4th position in the skiathlon, and I think he's a real contender for any Russian that's racing there will be a real contender for a medal.
Yeah, he's a good 50k man as well. But the 50-kilometre this year at the Olympic Games is in the freestyle technique. The 15-kilometre is going to be in the classic. And that takes us back to the old days when the 15-kilometre classic was the blue ribbon event of all major championships.
It was, and in the old days, of course, time trial. And that brings a different athlete to the front. But Polterainen at the front of this one, I would say he's absolute favourite. And remember, 4 years ago, he was only 39th in the 15-kilometre classic and 27th in the 50-kilometre classic.
Well, if you have a look at the bib numbers, you may notice that the high numbers are vanishing from that leading group, most of them in the teens. The highest number in there is actually Pellegrino, who's wearing I think he's wearing number 57, the Italian. I'm not quite sure why he's so lowly ranked, but his speciality is sprinting, but he's still a very good distance skier as well. Otherwise, it's the 10s, the teens, and 1 or 2 20s in there as well.
Good to see Babikov in the middle column, although a little behind the Yaparov.
Now in the biathlon, Mike, we've seen a spike in form certainly from the French, certainly from the Germans, of 2 or 3% over the last week or so. I was expecting to see the same, but as they're still playing it tactically, I don't think we're going to find out until the end of this run.
We're not, and still 27 in this lead group, although losing a couple at the back now. So I think you're right, it is tactical, and the pace really surely has to go dynamic very, very soon. It's hard, but it's going to go crazy soon.
I didn't see any of the Frenchmen in that leading group. Cyril Miranda is there just hanging off the back and didn't pick up the number. I think that may well have been Miranda at the back with Galabra.
It was, yeah, bib 23, Cyril Miranda.
27 is Pepine of Romania, who took a tumble earlier on, and now we start to see the first application of power, and it's coming from Maxim Villigjanin. Polterainen right on his heels. Number 13 looking good, Dmitry Yaparov of Russia, and the Russians certainly starting to make their mark. They're all well positioned in that front group, Mike.
Yeah, I love the way Yaparov skis. He's got that very upright technique. He was 3rd place in the 10-kilometre classic at the start of the season up in Kuusamo. So he knows what it takes to get himself on the podium, and he certainly has upped the pace. And this is although it doesn't look it, it's a gradual and then much steeper towards the camera, much steeper climb coming up this section. 9.6 completed very soon. 18, Devon Kershaw. Good to see him coming back. Just after Christmas, of course, he was 2nd in the 4.5-kilometre freestyle prologue in Oberhof.
The Junior World Championships held here back in 2001. Actually, they applied for the Olympic Games, if you go back to 1936. But just missing out on that occasion. It'd be a very different place if they had won it. A little bit of alpine skiing close at hand as well. It's not a huge resort, but it's considerably cheaper than the Alps.
And yeah, if you love your cross-country skiing, when there's snow, it's well prepared.
Devon Kershaw not looking exactly relaxed. I suspect that his skis have just starting to run out. Good 15 bonus points, though, for him. And up over the top for Villigjanin, who settles down again after that intermediate sprint. 26.55 on the clock. We're going to be just under 15 Ks for the total distance, Mike, or closer to 13.5, to be honest. So we should see a time What do you think? Just over 35 minutes max?
Maybe even less, with a slightly shorter distance today.
Pellegrino just starting to lose touch with the leaders as Villigjanin keeps the pressure on. The best of the Germans at the moment is that, was that Dotzler? Or I think it's Dotzler going through. Just trying to pick out Toby Angra, who's wearing bib number 9. Number 8 is Tim Schanke.
Angra's still in there. He's 8th position, actually, so Angra, he slipped past there, but he hasn't had a great season, Angra, and he needs to convince, well, there he is, on the right-hand side of screen, just passing Polterainen.
Yeah, Angra is he's a good man for the big occasion, though, Mike. Silver in the Olympic 30-kilometre in 2010. He got a silver in the World Championships in 2007, I think it was, once again in the 30-kilometre.
Good to see him. Well, he is. He's in the pace here. This pace is as it's picking up as expected.
Yeah, 1 lap to go. 2.7 kilometres to ski now, and this will almost certainly be the fastest lap that we've seen so far today. And that is why the leading group has been split in half. And with Villigjanin piling on the pressure all the way round, a man who was 5th in the World Cup rankings back in 2013. He's had podiums up in Kuusamo. And, of course, a really good run in the Tour de Ski last year, finished 3rd. And he's a good distance man as well, Villigjanin, so he won't have any trouble covering the 13.5 distance at full tilt. 28.39 for the first 4 laps, 1 to go.
That's a brave move from Villigjanin. Can he hold on to it? I'm surprised Polterainen, well, Polterainen is in 3rd. He's trying to close it down.
Well, they've been averaging just over 7 minutes, 15 seconds for each lap. And if that continues, it could be around 36 minutes. But I suspect this is going to be lightning quick on the final loop. A little bit of one-step double pole, the technique used on the flatter sections, and just the gradual uphills. Number 9, Toby Angra, well-positioned. Now, if he could get back the sprint finish that he used to have in, 2004, 2005, then it could have been his day.
Yeah, and Toby Angra, he started his sprint a long way out, sometimes 2 kilometres out, sometimes, well, 1.5, but always early. I'd love to see him come back to that kind of form.
I think it's unlikely. I think it's unlikely, and that's actually, I find the comparison with Northug, who up until last season had a fantastic finish. We've yet to see him apply it this year convincingly. I know he won the sprint finish for the 35-kilometre in the Tour de Ski, although it only put him into 2nd position overall. But we haven't seen that electric burst of speed from Northug, and I'm just wondering whether he's going through the same transition as Angra went through when he lost his sprint.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think racing has changed a little since 2007 when Angra was winning the overall World Cup. It then became Northug country where it was all very fast sprinting, but the Russians are now braking much earlier, and that's maybe why Villigjanin went so early at 2.7 to go.
Well, Zenseth is the man moving up wearing 4, being tracked by his teammate Dmitry Yaparov, 28-year-old Russian, who's looking very comfortable behind Volsenseth. And Volsenseth finished 3rd in Lenzerheide, so don't rule him out. He's got a lovely, long, loping stride, but whether he's got the turn of speed required to win a race like this, I'm not sure.
And Belov there, bib number 10. His efficiency, and he's a huge athlete, 195, I think he is, centimetres. But he's such an efficient move, a little bit like Polterainen in the classic technique. 11 athletes still in this front group, although that little section of downhill spreads them out even further and gives the advantage to those in the front 5, certainly. And Polterainen is still there. Alex Harvey still up there in the leading group. We've got Devon Kershaw well positioned as well for Canada. So 2 Canadians hoping to take the glory today. Even Babikoff has moved up. Actually, I'm just looking for Harvey, Mike. Can you pick up on his position? Harvey at the last check.
She's actually dropped out of that front group, I think. It's Babikoff who's come through, who's wearing bib number 6.
Alex Harvey, 11th last count, 9 seconds behind. So yes, he's beginning to, or is that him coming back again? He is attacking. He was losing it to 9 seconds. He's back now to 2 seconds.
Yep, Harvey wearing 2. Number 6 is Babikoff. Number 18 is Devon Kershaw. So finally, we've got you up to date on the Canadian performances. 13 is Dmitry Yaprov. We've spotted him before. 12 is Besmetnik. And then alongside him, just starting to suffer a little, I think, Tim Schanker of Germany, who won the 15-kilometre in Canmore last year. Looked very good there, but once again, it was a slightly reduced field.
It was, and Tim Schanker, remember that silver medal in Vancouver at the Olympics, silver medal in the team sprint freestyle.
Okay, where's your money, Mike?
Well, I was feeling good for, of course, the Russian Veliksyanin, but he did do the team sprints last weekend, and Novomaisto won there in the freestyle.
And Veliksyanin has chosen the toughest part of the course to try and make the break. Dotzler's trying to go with him, and a good effort coming in from the rest of the Russian squad. Alex Harvey looks to be suffering. I think that might be a ski factor. Dotzler is right up there with the leaders. He's not given up quite yet, but it's Veliksyanin who's continually turning the screw. He went with 3 kilometres to go. He put another burst in as they went through the stadium for the final time, and now he finds himself some 10 metres clear of the rest of the field, and everyone else is starting to hurt.
Tim Schanker, I think it was his wax. He was exhausted at the top of this. He wasn't getting much purchase through the grip on his skis, taking the recovery.
Veliksyanin's not having any problem with getting the wax to work. He's in the mist, and he's almost out of sight of the rest of the field. So a really effective burst. 15-metre advantage for Veliksyanin now. 12.6 kilometres completed. They've got another 900 metres to go, and a 7.6 advantage for Veliksyanin of Russia. Poltoran in 2, Belov in 3rd, Dotzler in 4. Belov, we talked about early, brilliant junior Belov, and nice to see him doing well. I think he took 8 medals at under 23 level. He certainly won the silver medal in the Junior World Championships in the 10-kilometre Classic, and well, maybe worth a little wager for the Olympic Games. It's certainly, you get very good odds on him taking a win.
I think so. He has the talent. He hasn't had a particularly good start to the season. This is a brave move, and this is what Veliksyanin and Chernousov have been practicing, to break so far out in order to get rid of Northug, and they're trying to carry that practice into this race. It's working.
I think he's got it in the bag now. Most of the tough bits of this course completed, down towards the fans and the stadium. Some of the tail-enders, locals from Poland, just finding the World Cup level a little bit stiff. Poltoranin in 2nd place. On his heel is Yevgeny Belov, who will certainly try and make a move in the closing stages. A couple of 100 metres to go. It's still Veliksyanin who leads, and it's a significant lead as well. Harvey is still in contention for a podium position, but he's got to gain 5 or 6 metres if he wants it. Otherwise, we're going to have 2 Russians on the podium and a Kazakh who's in 2nd place at the moment, but about to be shot at. Veliksyanin going for top spot, no doubt about that. Belov versus Poltoranin for 2nd place, and Belov's had a good turn of speed. It's Russia 1 and 2, Kazakhstan in 3 with Poltoranin, and Alex Harvey having to settle for 4th place, having won the sprint yesterday.
Well, and that's 4 times around that 1.6-kilometre track yesterday. Well done to Harvey, and fantastic points for his overall standings.
And what about Toby Angerer, 2nd of the Germans, just behind Dotzler? That may well be his ticket for a place in the German relay team. Well done to Toby Angerer. Volsentseth is down in 7, Kershaw in 8. Three Canadians in the top 9 positions. But Russia really stealing the day. They've got 1st, 2nd and 7th today. Well, the alpine skiing coming up from Wengen with Nick and John. Glad to see they've got a little bit more snow than we've got in Szklarska, Poreba. We'll be back with the women's 10-kilometre in just over an hour. I hope you join us then. Justina Kowalczyk, obviously the favourite.